Why was that so loud?
Oh, I am super loud.
Sup?
What is up? How's it going, Nerf Herders? Welcome back to the N.A.P. We are, man, it's been a little bit, I suppose. I keep looking over here because I need to move where you are on my screen. It's messing with me a little bit. How are we doing, Josh? What's up?
We're doing, man. We're doing. It's been a minute.
It is.
We took last week off. But granted, I mean, there wasn't a ton of news last week. There was some updates with AMC, but not a ton. It was kind of a dry week. So, but we've got stuff to talk about this week. So we thought we'd get it together.
It was certainly slower than what I think it should have been.
Yeah.
But, well, not necessarily slower than it should have been because nothing's going on. Everything's locked down, or it's supposed to be, and that's just life for us right now. But yeah,
for us in America, everybody else
for us in America
is opening up.
Fine.
Yeah, yeah,
they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, so it's working out great for them. Mr. Josh, did you grow up watching Avatar: The Last Airbender?
No, I did not. I did not have cable growing up. I never saw the last Airbender. In fact, my first and I know this is sacrilegious, but my first ever anything Avatar: The Last Airbender was the M. Night Shyamalan movie, which even having not seen the series, I understood to be terrible. Like I just knew it was a bad movie. But that certainly did not encourage me to go watch the anime. And really, actually, so the only other time I went back to it was after I watched Korra, because I watched Korra from start to finish and loved that series. And so then I went back and eventually watched The Last Airbender. But yeah, I didn't grow up on it at all.
Okay. Well, I did. So when the series came out, like it was right up my alley as soon as it was coming. Like I wasn't really big into anime, and I wasn't really big into TV at the time that it was coming out. Like I was playing music a lot. I was being a teenager, and so when I heard that the M. Night movie was coming out, I was like stoked. I was like, oh shit, here we go. Because I had just come fresh off of like seeing, I didn't see The Happening at that point in time, but The Happening kind of had like a teaser for it in it. Not necessarily a trailer, like he kind of snuck it into his movie.
I remember something about that.
Yeah, there's a scene where it's like where like Avatar she's got like an Avatar backpack or something like that, and the bus has like the year that the movie was coming out in or something like that. But I hadn't seen The Happening. The only M. Night movies that I had seen were Signs, which is incredible. And The Village. I think it's called The Village, right? Yeah. For some reason I had a weird brain fart there. Which I actually liked because I hadn't seen any of the trailers for it at the time because we lived in the middle of nowhere. And I didn't watch TV, so I didn't see the trailers for this movie. Saw it on satellite TV like way back in those days. So I'm like, cool, this guy's really good at making movies. He's going to do my show a live action. I saw the trailers for it. I was like, sweet, this is going to be awesome. And then it fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Fucking sucked. It was so bad. So they
set him up for failure, honestly, because I remember in the year before that movie came out, there was an Entertainment Weekly magazine that had him on the cover that said the next Spielberg. And for fuck's sake, if you want to kill anybody's career, call them the next and then the leader of that time in that career field. The next Hans Zimmer, the next Steven Spielberg, the next Christopher Nolan. Don't ever do that. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you think it's a compliment. Don't ever do that. And they set him up for failure. And then honestly, it goes the same way with some of these Marvel movies and some of these superhero movies that have failed over the years, where these studios take these high concept small film directors that have scored big and then give them this gigantic beast of a movie and expect them to be able to pull it off when that is not their wheelhouse. Doesn't mean they can't do that. The Russo brothers have clearly showed that they can go from the smallest of TV things to the biggest of blockbusters. But, you know, I mean, Signs and what was the Sixth
Village,
Sense and
Sixth
Unbreakable and
Sense,
The Village,
Unbreakable.
those are all great films, but they had a very small footprint, and that's why they were so good. They were very small films. And I mean, I would have never thought that this would have been the progression for him. And he's never gone this big since. Like, it was clearly like, I don't know if it was too much for him. I don't know if it was too much studio interference, but it was a weird path for him to go.
Well, and yeah, after it came out, I kind of lost hope that like there was talk of a sequel, and I was like, please don't, because
Oh God, no. Yeah.
because he really only covered like the first book.
Mm.
And I was like, man, this could go really bad if it goes any farther.
Yeah.
But yeah, the so when I heard that that Netflix was doing a live action version of the show, I was like, oh no, let's not do that. But it was also announced at the time that the original creators of the show were going to be helming the thing. They were gonna be up. It was gonna be their creative vision. And then I was like, okay, if anybody can do it right, it's gonna be the OG creators of the show. Well, unfortunately, they're not. That's not the case anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're talking about today. Now, I haven't had a lot of experience with the behind the scenes side of any of the Netflix series out there. I know that a lot of the series that they have done have been adaptations of other media. So far, I'm not sure how involved the creators of the original media have been, or how Netflix's treatment of them have been. But this might be the first time I have heard a team splitting off, like the original creators splitting off from a Netflix show because of creative differences. But that might not be the first time it's actually happened. It's just the first time I ever cared about it. So after I know that the show didn't mean a hell of a lot for you growing up, because you came into it kind of late, but and so you probably didn't have the emotional reaction that I did. But how did you feel hearing that Netflix and them were like, because he's quoted here as to saying, Netflix's live action adaptation of Avatar has this is DiMartino. Netflix's live action adaptation of Avatar has the potential to be good. It might turn out to be a show many of you end up enjoying, but what I can be certain about is that whatever version ends up on screen, it will not be what Brian and I had envisioned or intended to make. Which is, I mean, that's a pretty good sign that they're deviating pretty far from what their original vision would have been. And I don't know, that kind of, I feel like that leaves the door open for maybe disservicing the characters. But the fans have been freaking out. Have you? Is this kind of something that you were like, hey, don't work it out. Whatever you got to do, keep those guys.
It was definitely intriguing, because my first thought, like before I even started reading the article, when I saw the headline, my first thought was like, well, shit, man, if the original creators can't make a live adaptation version of this, then nobody can, because we've already seen one attempt and it failed. This was going to be like, oh, finally, it's in the right hands. But you know, this is what really intrigued me. Netflix has done a lot of adaptions. And I mean, the Umbrella Academy is a very current, recent example where they have worked very closely with the creators, and both the creators and the fans are incredibly happy with that adaptation. They have done,
so far.
Yeah, they have done a lot of adaptions. They have done a lot of you know, series continuations and remakes. They've brought a lot of stuff to their channel, and for the longest time, it seemed like they had the money and they had the ability to say yes to whatever. If you had the ability to make it, they had the ability to buy it.
They seem to limit themselves at that point too. They were like, here's the money, make your show.
Yeah.
we'll tell you if it gets in or not. It
Well,
didn't
I
seem to
mean,
be like a bunch of interference or anything like
it
that.
really didn't, and in fact, it seemed like an endless waterfall of dollar bills to whoever had the. I mean, look at all the films that they have come out with, all the films and the series that they have consistently come out with. 2019. If you Google Netflix or if you Twitter Netflix there on Twitter the hashtag, there is endless amounts of. Do you think Netflix caused COVID-19? Because it's just like a conspiracy theory now, because it seems like Netflix was the only one prepared for this. They just have so much content. And so the to hear that the original creators, not just some guy that wanted to do an adaptation, but the original creators couldn't get this done. I mean, that just sounds like, I mean, if anything is going to hype up your new show, it's going to be that the original creators of the award-winning original show is bringing it to life. So I cannot fathom what could have possibly been the disconnect here. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and they haven't said either. That's kind of the thing. They've been like DiMartino and Konitsko,
Mm-hmm.
I think is how you pronounce his name. I mean, they've been on since 2018.
Yep.
So they've been. I mean, there's a lot that's going to go into the development of something like this, obviously. So, I mean, how much of that was actually shoot like it so far, just from the few articles that I've been glancing through, it doesn't sound like they've gotten too terrible much filming done. And I don't think we've even have there been cast announcements? I've been trying to stay away from it because I don't want to get my hopes up. I've been trying to like stay
I don't
out
think
of
there's
like
been
looking up
anything.
much.
I don't think there's been anything since the announcement. There hasn't been any announcements that I know of.
What am I gonna say? Is there a live
I think
series
it's just been like a dry
cast?
desert of announcements, and that's why this thing finally came.
Okay, well, the first result that I got when I typed live series cast was the M. Night Shyamalan movie. So
Yeah.
that's
But I mean, and here's the other. I mean, again, I'm just baffled by this, because not only is this, hey, it's just not going to work out, but the quote that you read is like, it's not beating around the bush. Okay.
no.
I mean, he said, and right before then, he said, in a joint announcement for the series, Netflix said it was committed to honoring our vision for this retelling and to supporting us on creating this series. And then we fast forward to what you just said, that this, it might be good, but what I know for certain is that whatever version ends up on the screen, it's not what Brian and I envisioned or intended to make. That is crystal clear. That he's not saying, "Oh, they're going to try their best," or "Oh, we've gotten so far and someone's just going to finish it." It's nope. We are officially distancing ourselves as far away from this as possible. So, I mean, if they haven't started production, I would just pull the fucking plug on that, because this seems like a nail in the coffin for anybody that cared about this adaptation.
Well, so that's a really good thing about this show, though, is that it has a huge following. It has a huge community of very devoted fans. The original series and Legend of Korra just, well, I think Legend of Korra just recently got added to Netflix.
It did.
Avatar: The Last Airbender has been up there for I think a couple months now.
Yep.
But I mean, when that came out, like the biggest controversy about it was that the quality wasn't like they didn't upload like the best quality they could have, and so watching it looked a little low, looked a little on the low end. But that's also compared to that was coming from fans who had like bought the Blu-rays, like they were watching like the highest quality versions of the
Right.
show that they could.
Right.
So on the scale of how bad a controversy can be about a show, it was like super, it was a really low bar to set. And then then this comes out and it's like, okay, fatality, it's done. Like when you got something like this and the fans get this upset, there's only two things that you can do. You can either submit to what the original creators of the show wanted to do and do what you have to make it happen, because obviously they've got a big fan base that are going to be interested in their final product. I mean, we found out about this on their social media. It wasn't like it wasn't like a press release or something like that. It was the original creators announcing it to their social media following, and it just blew up. And so yeah, you either cede to their vision or you
Mm-hmm.
don't do it at all. Because there's going to be some anger. Like there's going to be some of those devoted fans who are going to be like, hey, so if this is even slightly not good, they're going to shit on it like you wouldn't believe.
Or
Because they're going to be like,
or they'll
maybe if you
boycott
kept
it.
the original guys.
Or they'll boycott it before it even gets going. I mean,
yep.
And again, we have seen Netflix pay top dollar. We've seen them bring on big names. They're paying fuck tons of money to Ryan Reynolds right now. Ryan Reynolds and The Rock to be in some of their original productions. So it's not like they don't got the money to spend. They do special effects. They do very risque adult movies. They do a broad range of weird stuff, of cool stuff, of mainstream stuff, of really bottle film niche stuff. They've done everything. So my mind is just like, then what? What was the thing that broke this relationship? Like, I mean, it's not like they didn't know what Avatar was. And it's not like the own creators are going to come to Netflix like, remember that series? We're going to turn it on its head and we're going to do something totally different. I seriously doubt they were going to make something crazy batshit. So what? I mean, this is if I wasn't following this before, now I am because I gotta know. I want the behind the scenes documentary of how this happened because it's just like I cannot fathom a reasonable explanation for how Netflix shit the bed with this. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm conflicted with is that obviously I want to give it a chance because some of my favorite media has come from not the original. I mean, how many pieces of Batman have involved Bob Kane that have been like incredibly good?
Sure.
It's like yeah, it's like the Dark Knight trilogy wasn't made by the original creator, but goddamn, it was good. It was good content, and it was mostly faithful to to the character, to the original source material. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I want to give it a shot, but we've seen, I think the reason that I'm conflicted is because we've seen somebody who's not the original creator try to create their own thing already, and it tanked. They did a terrible job with it. First of all, I think a series is a much smarter move
Absolutely,
than a film, because I mean, that was the big complaint that I had about the movie, even when I had first seen it, and I was younger at the time. But even when I first saw it, I was like, they're trying to cram, like they were skipping through so much. I was like, Jesus, they're trying to put like the whole first season all into one movie. I was like, you can't do that in like an hour. What was it, like an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Wait, Avatar Last Airbender movie runtime. Hour and 43 minutes. Yeah. Like it's just can't be done. Can't be done. And so a series makes a lot more sense. Especially on Netflix, where you don't have to worry about ad time. They can get away with a hell of a lot more. And I don't know. First of all, I don't want them to tell the same story. I don't want to see the original characters again. I would like to see something in that universe. But if they do tell that same story, I mean, that's, I want to see it, but it's also kind of disappointing. It's like, I know how this ends. Like, unless they decide to do something completely different, it's like, I know how this is going to go. It's prequel syndrome. And it's like,
yeah. I mean, but it is, it was opening the door for a lot of people that, like me, didn't grow up on the thing. And again, when we've come off of, when we've, in the last year, when you've seen Umbrella Academy do wonders, and that was very much approved by the creators, and The Witcher, which is another high concept series that's now getting like spin-offs and everything. And again, very high praised by the creator and the fans. And then another adaptation. Let's see, it was a cartoon. Voltron. Voltron was something that Netflix brought back. That was another. I mean, way older than the last Airbender, and they did a great job with that. So it's just so weird. It's just so weird and especially talk about throwing away your selling point. Like you said, the last time somebody attempted this, they shit the bed. And now we're in a different state of being where, Hollywood doesn't feel like it has to do movie adaptations. They're way more open to series, and we're getting a new series every week. It's not like we only get 10 series a year. So it's so weird that they would do this. And maybe it's not the end of the story. Maybe this is some type of negotiation tactic, because I mean, and if you're a fan of this series and you really don't want to see a series that goes against the creators, now is your time to voice. Clearly, maybe that was their strategy, because they didn't put it out as a joint statement with Netflix. They put it out on social media to their fans. Maybe that was their hope, is that enough people would raise their hand and say, hey, there's something wrong here.
See, that's kind of what I'm hoping it isn't, because creative differences is kind of like the don't ask, don't tell buzzword in Hollywood when there's some sort of an issue on set. Doesn't matter what it is. They just say, like, all right, creative differences. Yeah. Sometimes they're like, that's the word that they'll use to try not to give as much explanation.
And, so and a lot of the times, the people that are saying creative differences are just, the guy they hired to film it, or the guy they hired to produce it. It's not the creators. So if the creators actually have creative differences, that to me is worth looking into. I don't care if some guy they just brought on to direct it decides, I wanted to film it like this. These are the creators that are saying they're having creative differences. So I'm willing to lean towards them, give them more of a shadow of the doubt type situation.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll give it a chance if it does decide to come out and we see maybe some endorsements from them or something like that. Maybe they're like, you know what, we've seen some stuff, and honestly, it's faithful to our universe that we've created. But I did mention Batman while we were in there, and I had seen this story today, but I didn't even think about including it in the stories. I'm glad that you threw it in there. But yeah, we've got so in the DC universe, we got Fandome coming this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the closest that, I mean, other than New York Comic Con, if that's like, depending on how that's still
finally got canceled.
Finally get canceled. I was going to say, I thought I heard something on that, but did it trigger you? Is that bringing up kind of like a hurt point for you?
No. I mean, at this point, I was hoping and waiting for that. And my contact was like, yeah, don't pay yet. Just wait. But it was interesting because I think it was Newsweek in the days before New York Comic Con announced. Newsweek put out this article that was a shitty excuse for an article. But they said New York Comic Con plans to continue. Like the headline was New York Comic Con plans to still go on or something like that. And they had interviewed, but they had interviewed nobody from New York Comic Con. So Newsweek did this interview with like some random guy, random creator, big name that's gone to New York Comic Cons in years past, and said, "Hey, are you going this year?" And he's like, "No." And then they said, "We reached out to New York Comic Con," but they didn't, and they just copy pasted what was in the about section of the website that's been there since like April. But they never reached out to Reed Pop. They never reached out to New York Comic Con. And so they were just like giving New York Comic Con shit for staying open. And maybe that's what forced their hand to finally announce it. But 2 days later, New York Comic Con did an announcement video saying, yeah, we're not going to hold it this year. But, I mean, DC Fandome has been announced for a while, and we haven't really talked about it on the show because we were kind of waiting for more things to come out about it. And, DC didn't have a huge presence on the San Diego Comic-Con live thing. In fact, nobody really did. Everybody seemed to pull out of that to do their own thing. But they finally gave us the schedule for this event, which is this, it's this Saturday and Sunday of this week. And there's some interesting things on here, and there's some to be determined stuff on here as well.
Yeah, there's a huge. So what brought me onto it is that Warner Brothers had kind of a teaser on one of their for another Batman video game, and
Mm-hmm.
and Warner Brothers is obviously they've been the ones responsible for the Arkham series games, which I absolutely love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe unless it ends up being like one of the Telltale ones, which was still good. Like if you haven't played the Batman Telltale games, I would do that because they're also very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I got pretty excited because they just had the Bat and Gotham Knights, and it was like, okay, what are
Right.
we getting into here? So I looked into it, and yeah, we got DC Fandome coming right around the corner, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of stuff just in the preview, which you can find off of just about any article right now. But like, there's a bunch of different things that they've got going on.
Right.
The Batman 3 Jokers, specifically one that sticks out to my mind. I'm interested in seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a surprise DC Comics panel, August 22nd at 5 p.m. I don't know what time for it. All of them are Eastern Standard Time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The expansion of DC's Watchmen universe, DC multi-universe, graphic novel masterclass, how to break into comics, especially for artists, which is get like it's a con. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really a con full of panels, but it's DC focused.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously a lot of this stuff is going to be on their it's going to be on Watchverse, which makes perfect sense. They're not selling tickets to this damn thing, get people in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is I'm stoked. And I mean, anybody could look at the background in your studio there and realize, oh yeah, he's probably going to be in on this. I mean,
Yeah.
how are you feeling? What's getting you excited?
There's a few things. There's supposed to be a trailer for the Snyder Cut
Yep.
that comes out. There is that surprise DC Comics thing, which will be
That's what
interesting.
I'm excited for.
I'm more intrigued than anything else because DC Comics just did a ton of layoffs. So I'll be surprised how much they address that. They just did Warner Brothers cleaned house over the last 2 weeks. They just let a lot of people go. But there's also a to be announced 10-minute Warner Brothers DC block in there somewhere. And the article that we're looking at doesn't show it, but there's another article that does show it. And there's a lot. It's right around the time of the Snyder panel. So there's a lot of question marks out there because of all the people that are slated to show up. Henry Cavill is not on the list. And he showed up for the live, Man of Steel commentary where Zack Snyder announced the Snyder Cut. So there's a lot of speculation on whether or not he's going to show up for that 10-minute to be announced thing. And they announce another Superman movie or they announce, something along the lines. I mean, even if it's a cameo of him coming in somewhere, that would be cool. Hey, Brent's here. What's up, Brent? How you doing, buddy? So I'm excited for that. I'm hoping to hear about another Batman game. There's that Suicide Squad game that they teased recently, where it's Suicide Squad versus the Justice League, and that sounds like a fun game. They just released a poster of that, and if they can have some footage of that, if it's even close to the Arkham quality, but you're playing as Suicide Squad versus the Justice League, that'd be awesome. That'd be so awesome.
Yeah, I'm not going to get any cons this year. Like we're not going to get any of that. And SDCC did some similar stuff where they did a lot of video content.
Right.
And so I feel like this is going to be a lot of the same thing. But obviously very DC because DC didn't have a big foothold on SDCC, as you said before. Like there wasn't a huge. So this is where we're going to get a lot of filled in information. It would be. I would love a Snyder Cut trailer.
Well, that's happening. They've already said it's happening. He's confirmed.
I'd love a Snyder Cut trailer under any circumstances. So I don't know. We're still kind of in a light week, so I don't know how to like. I don't want to speculate on too terrible much because it's like it's a con. Anything could happen. It's a con in the middle of a pandemic when the news cycle has been absolutely dominated by coronavirus. A lot of stuff was probably able to sneak under the radar. Like there's a lot of stuff that they could have been doing that They're like, all right, cool. People are a little preoccupied right now. Maybe we don't have to be as scared of leaks or something coming out above the head of time. Like they had more control over this. Also, with it not being a live event or not being a like a in-person event, I think that makes things a little bit easier for them too, because they need less people involved as far as what's going to get out there. So honestly, anything could come out here. But if you're a comic book fan, whether you like DC or Marvel or Dark Horse or any of them, like, I mean, this is a good event. Like, I mean, they're gonna have something for everybody here. So, I mean, I'll be watching, and I've got a lot of photos to work on right now. So I'm gonna be watching that panel over on the second monitor. It'll be nice. It'll be a nice Saturday. I don't know about Sunday, but yeah.
I don't expect to see much Wonder Woman footage. We've already seen so much of that. I feel like if they release any more, then we'll see the whole movie by now. But I would like to see Batman footage, even if it's just a little like clip of a scene. That would be cool. Of the Batman and of James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I'd love to see some of that. We've got a cool new poster for it. That's just the text, the new logo, but we haven't seen much from that. And that's farther along than many of the upcoming products or projects. So
you think that first 10 minutes will be like the first 10 minutes of Wonder Woman or something like that? They'll be like, hey, this is supposed to be out already. Here you go.
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know. So, yeah. I don't know, but
just to get people excited and see what the hype level would be, so they can kind of explore the same thing that some of these other films have been doing, where they're doing like stream releases and
right. Because normally they would have released something at San Diego. So even if it's just a piece, I think most people would be like, oh, wow, wasn't expecting this in the middle of a pandemic when most productions have been shut down. So I would love to see anything. Oh, for sure.
They got to start building up the hype a little bit. And this is a good place to do it.
Brent agrees, though, with my Henry Cavill last second Superman movie reveal. First of all, that would be awesome. I wonder what Brent would want it to be called, because I've seen some people say they want it to just be called Superman, since we've had even the original Superman was Superman the movie. We've never had a movie just called Superman. And there's another one, because we've already had Man of Steel. So what other names are there for Superman? Would it be Man of Steel 2? Brent just wants Superman. He just wants Superman. I would like that, because I would like a Henry Cavill movie where he's just Superman, or he's Superman. That's what it's called. I really liked Man of Steel as a title, but I'd love a Superman movie, just Superman. We'll see.
I was gonna say I'm just gonna look for it here. Like notable aliases. So I mean, the Man of Steel, the Man of Tomorrow, and the Last Son of Krypton. Last Son of Krypton would be pretty cool. That wouldn't be a bad title.
Yeah, but I could just see that. Yeah, well, I mean, Man of Steel was an awesome one. Yeah, Christopher Reeves was Superman the movie.
I'm just saying.
Last Son of Krypton. That'd be interesting.
I just did the Google search that said other names for Superman, and it came up with a nice little trilogy of titles here.
That's right. That's right. You did.
So I mean, that was like if whoever decides to work on those movies is like, hey, Google did the work for us. We don't have to pay it.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I'm excited. But moving on, I'm excited that you brought this one up, because I was gonna skip over it. I was gonna put it in like a lightning round or something like that. But there's been something that's been annoying me about this next story in particular. It's Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead replaces Chris D'Elia with Tig Notaro.
Yeah. So this dude got replaced with this person.
Yeah. Now, first of all, I'm not a fan of Chris D'Elia. I haven't heard much of his comedy specials, but I will tell you that there was an incredibly ironic moment where, so he's accused of multiple instances of sexual assault or sexual impropriety. What is it? Was it full on assault or?
I think sexual it was
misconduct. Sexual misconduct involving underage girls
and grooming and stuff like that. Yeah.
when I had first heard of that, I was just like, it's I don't know anything about the guy. Yes, no, who knows? But I was glad that people had come out about it. But at the same time, his every time I opened up Netflix, the trailer or the little stinger for his comedy special was also playing at the same time. Now it's since been taken down, but at the time that those came out, it was that trailer, and he happened to be telling a joke about how guys have to keep their dicks in their pants. Like that was the stinger that they had up on there. I'm like, Jesus fuck, this is aging like milk really fast.
You want me to blow your mind even more? Because that's nothing compared to what his last big role was, which was in the second season of You, also that came out on
It was
Netflix
a
this year,
rapist, wasn't he?
where he was a pedophile.
Oh, he's a
He
pedophile.
was grooming a girl, and yeah, he was a pedophile, and the main character caught his little dungeon and caught him trying to groom this teenage girl. And a lot of people are like, and he played himself. Like he played, I mean, I think his name was different, but he played a comedian and that just did this. And it was like, and people were like, man, that's kind of ballsy to play something so close to who you are. And he just kept on giving people shit like, it's called acting, guys. And then like 2 months later, this comes out.
It's a bold
So,
move, man. That's a
bold
bold
move.
move, Cotton.
Yeah.
Like to try and distance yourself from something terrible, you're gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna jump into that role. If anybody
Right.
can play it, it's me.
So
That's
now,
I don't like that.
and I mean, and this cast already has some great people in it. It's got Dave Bautista in it. It's got Ella Purnell in it. It's got Theo Rossi in it. It's got a lot of people. It's got Anna De La Rega. She's from Goliath, which I love that show. And people have been like, basically, they've been really excited about this because it's Zack Snyder's baby. But they've also been excited for him to hurry up and finish this because his main work on the Snyder cut of Justice
Yeah.
League, he needed to get this done first. And
Yeah.
now they're going back and replacing footage with Tig Notaro, and everybody's like, for the love of God, just finish this damn movie so we can get our Justice League. But I'm excited because I really like Tig Notaro. I like her as a comedian. She's very dry, witty humor. She's just great. I like her as a person. I think she's very creative. I think she's very outgoing. She went through breast cancer and has a really interesting story. And she was very public about it. And that's what it's actually like. That's what brought her to fame, is that like her lowest moment, she was just like so depressed and so like deep in a dark hole that she just like went out on stage and told people about it. And that's what blew her up. And I just think she's awesome. And I really wish that I liked Star Trek Discovery because she's on that show as well. But I just couldn't give two shits about that show. But this is really cool. I think it's great. And I think it's also a nail in the coffin for Chris because there hasn't been a lot of talk ever since the allegations against Chris. It's just been allegations. There hasn't been much movement. And for Zack Snyder, who's seems like he's a very loyal guy, for him to be like, we're going to pull the plug, we're going to tape over you, then I would say that there's probably something legit out there, that it's either about to come out or there's just enough that even if nothing happens, it's enough for the people in charge to be like, yeah, we need to pull this.
Well, so that's kind of the thing about that's where the argument comes in about these allegations when they come out about an actor, is that sometimes they're thinking like it's probably the first thing that people actually say, especially when they're fans of the person that it's being accused, is that they're just making these accusations in order to ruin this person's career or take away from the good that they've done or something like that. But here's the thing, is like, I have not heard of Christy Elliott to be like an incredible philanthropist or anything like that, or nor have I seen him in any big film roles where it's like,
no,
it's like we're not exactly finding out about Brad Pitt raping children here or anything like that.
Right.
Like this
He's always been edgy. He's always been crass. That's just always who he is. And I know that doesn't make him a rapist. And I know that doesn't make him a pedophile. There are tons of comedians that are edgy and crass and say a lot of shit that I wouldn't just be like, oh, well, he's an asshole on stage. That must make him an asshole in real life. So that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But
you don't want to.
No,
like,
of course
you never want to. You never want to compare a comedian to anything that they say on stage, because they are writing that out. They're literally just trying to get a laugh out of people, and he happened to build up a crowd that likes that dark, crass, gross humor.
So I'm not saying that means he is. I'm just saying that, you know, it's one thing for allegations to come out, but just because we haven't seen him be convicted doesn't mean that the people in Hollywood that are currently working with him don't know enough. And I just don't think they would pull him from this, especially this late in production, especially for something that's coming out on Netflix. It's not like it's coming out. Granted, Netflix is the current frontier for movies. It's not the theaters. But, you know, I just don't think they would pull him unless they had enough reason to. It's not like, oh, we heard a rumor, let's go hire Tig Notaro. I think they probably have enough to where even if we don't have that information, they do. And so they pulled the plug. And you know, to be fair, doesn't change this poster that much. You got him, now you don't. You know, so I'm happy about it. I love Tig Notaro. I'm excited to see her in this. Let's go.
This is a zero loss situation for me. And honestly, for his fan base, I think, okay, so first of all, even if you took away Chris D'Elia completely, you didn't replace his character at all. I was like, how much
everybody
work
else here?
You got a great lineup here. I mean, first
I'm sorry, I'm accidentally covering her up with that. But yeah, you got a crazy good cast here. I mean, if it was Dave Bautista you were cutting out, I might be concerned.
Yeah. So if you found out that Dave Bautista was getting cut out of the film, then you'd be like, well, shit, he's like an A-list celebrity now.
Yeah.
Like he's up there, and he's got great acting chops too, especially in the comedy world. Like he does a really good job. Theo Rossi, like I first saw him in Sons of Anarchy, did really good in that. And he was also, I think his character was kind of like pushed to the side a little bit in Luke Cage, but like he still did a good job with it.
Yep.
And Tig Notaro, she's got, like you said, she's got a resume all of her own. So I mean, this is a zero loss situation for me. I wasn't a fan of Chris D'Elia in the first place. And honestly, just seeing that Netflix stinger like right behind, I was just like,
like, you know what? And I know we've got other stuff to talk about this, but one more comment I have about this. When I heard about this casting, and I know I have faith in Zack Snyder to do a competent movie, but all I could think about was how what's his name? Michael Key was
Michael Key.
Yeah, was in The Predator, was cast in The Predator. Remember that? And everybody was like, "Oh, that's interesting." They put such a big comedian into an action movie. That's interesting. And then they had trailers, and he was the one, you know, doing all the comedy, you know. And they're, oh, this is gonna be a ragtag team of action people and comedians, and they're going, you know. And then when I saw this, I thought it was the exact same thing. You got all these badasses trying to look badass, and then you have the comedian in the group. You know, like it's a thing. Like you can't just have a bunch of Schwarzeneggers anymore. You got to throw in a comedian. And it really did not work for the Predator. Like it was bad. And so I'm hoping that Tig brings something more to the table, because he can stare with his aviators all day, but I don't consider him a badass at all. And I'm sure that he was the weakest part of this team. So Tig is a better performer in my mind. She's got a lot more charisma. She's got a lot more oomph to her, and so I feel like she'll be interesting.
Well, if you shave his face and just kind of put him in the background so he blurs a little bit, he looks enough like a middle-aged lesbian anyway that Tig Notaro can fill that gap pretty easily anyway. So it's like, yeah, it works out perfectly fine. Mr. Josh, you have some movie reviews for us. Spoiler free, unfortunately, because I started up Project Power and then I got interrupted, so I only saw like the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I have to try and get some free time or watch that today.
Well, I don't want to talk about Power because I figured you would. So why don't we talk about Project Power later? That was another Netflix movie that came out. And that had some big names in it. Had Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it. Had
he's the number one reason I want to watch it is because
had Jamie Foxx in it. Yeah, it had a guy we've seen enough on YouTube. It's got Casey Neistat in it, which is interesting. But
no, you watched the trailer on it. You did a
that's right. We did a trailer reaction for it. Mm-hmm.
I was left out on that one. I can't remember what was going on that podcast day, but yeah, I wasn't feeling it for any more content that day. But
there were two movies that came out this weekend. There was that, and there was a Russian film called Sputnik. And it is not this film. This is another Russian film called Sputnik. But it's a horror.
It looked very different from the link that you had sent me. I was like, wait a minute.
That's not it. It's called Sputnik, and it's a sci-fi horror movie. And holy shit, I have been waiting all summer to see this movie. When they first released this movie, when I saw the trailer for it, it honestly, like, the thumbnail didn't grab me. It looked like if you just go on YouTube and you type in trailer and then you put the last month or whatever, there's going to be big trailers, but then there's going to be a slew of direct to DVD, indie or less than indie films out there. That's just shit. And they might have an interesting image, but then once you click on the trailer, you know right away that this is it's a shitty backyard movie. And they hired shitty people to edit the trailer, and they really just got a good hero image for the icon, and that was it. And Sputnik, I was like, oh god, it's going to be another one of these, but I'm a sucker for sci-fi, so I'll at least watch the trailer. And I remember stopping the trailer. I stopped the trailer halfway through the trailer because it was enough. I was like, this movie looks awesome. The trailer set this up so well. And I was like so intrigued that I was like, I don't care. We're stopping the trailer. I'm going to watch this film as soon as I can. I don't want anything spoiled. And what the trailer shows, at least from what I saw, the first half of the trailer, basically centers around this character. Her character is Tatiana.
Are you gonna be able to pronounce it?
Her name is Oksana is what her name is. The actress's name. Her name in the film was Tatiana, but it's a Russian film. They're all
Tatiana Klimova.
Yeah, they don't have American names that make it easy for me to say it. But basically,
you haven't mentioned yet, and I feel like this is an important part. Is this a Russian language film?
This is a Russian language film. Yes, it's
subtitles. This is a straight up
completely subtitles. It's not like half and half or anything like that. It's full Russian. And which is fine. I was able to watch it with subtitles. It was good. The subtitles were good subtitles.
I'm gonna assume how fluent are you in Russian?
I am zero fluent in Russian. But the trailer reminded me a lot of Contact, or no, not Contact, Arrival. You remember the Denis Villeneuve movie Arrival, where they brought in Amy Adams? She was like a linguist, and Lawrence Fishburne's like, "Hey, we need you. We can't talk about it, but we need you." They brought the trailer was very much that vibe where she is this doctor who's kind of on trial for doing something unorthodox that saved the patient, but it was against, this is back in the 80s, and it was against protocol. And she's on trial, and basically this guy shows up out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I need you to come out with me." And this is Russia, by the way. So when a general comes to you from the Russian military and says, "I need you," you really don't have a choice. But you're
also probably going to die.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like, "Hey, I can make your problems go away if you get on this helicopter with me and go somewhere where that's undisclosed." And I mean,
sounds good.
Sounds great. And even she's like, shit, she doesn't really have a choice. But it all surrounds the Sputnik launch that was in, I think it was 1983, and basically something went wrong, and one astronaut survived, and there's something wrong with him, and she's brought in to figure that out. And I don't want to spoil the movie, and if you see the trailer, it'll spoil it for you. So don't watch the trailer, or at least don't watch
really,
past the first minute. But I mean, there's plenty of stuff that's not in the trailer. But this movie was fantastic, man. It was. I don't know what Russians spend on their movies. You know, I've seen some of their other trailers. Like there's a Guardians trailer that's like there's a bear with a machine gun, and it's like their version of the Avengers. All I know is they spent 190 million Russian rubles on this, which is 2.5 million in American for this. If you hear about a movie made for 2.5 million, you don't expect it to be crazy, high quality. But this movie,
you don't expect a lot of visual intensity or anything like that.
Right. This movie had gorgeous landscapes. They filmed the majority on site at this medical facility, this bioorganic chemistry institute that's in Russia, and then the rest was filmed in Moscow. It's got gorgeous tracking shots. It's got a great soundtrack or a score by Oleg Karpatchev. That I mean, every time the soundtrack came in, it just hit you, and I'm like, this dude's shooting for the fences. He's trying to be the Russian Hans Zimmer, and he was amazing at it. He was great. The actors are great. The sets are great. They're very simplistic, but they work. They look like 1980s Russia. It had the same vibe as Chernobyl did. I mean, it just looked right. Everything looked right. And then when it came to the sci-fi horror stuff and they needed that visual budget, the visual budget paid off. It was gross when it needed to be gross. It was scary when it needed to be scary. It had everything I wanted out of this film, and it didn't go beyond the scope that it needed to go. So I'm not going to tell you what the rest of the film's about, but I was blown away by how good this movie was. And then the next day I watched it again with my wife because she had heard about it. And I loved it. So from 2 months ago, seeing half a trailer to finally getting to see it this weekend, I was absolutely blown away by how good it was.
So that's, I mean, we've talked about it before, but I think that's kind of something that gets overlooked is foreign films.
Mm-hmm.
Especially over here. Well, I think we might have to embrace it a little bit more if you want to see some new movies this year, because
right
overseas is really the only place where they handled it well enough to where they could resume stuff like this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about my excitement for this one because, as you know, I'm not really a horror guy, but it also looks to be a creature feature.
It's definitely more sci-fi creature than horror.
So
I mean, if people die, but that doesn't necessarily make it more of a horror film, but it's definitely creepy at times.
It'll be a tough one for me because it's subtitles, and so I can't watch it in the background and like listen to it or anything like that, and keep up with everything else that I'm trying to do. But yeah, I'll definitely. Well, I can't watch the trailer because you said it'll spoil something, so I don't want to.
I mean, you could watch the first half of the trailer. I was pulled in, man. I was like, this trailer is cut well. It had a good score. It was setting it up, and I'm like, this is it. You sold me. I want to see this film. And then I didn't. I was just like, I'm gonna turn it off right now because I don't want anything spoiled.
Well, I'll watch like the first little bit of the trailer and kind of go from there. Yeah. And if I end up getting sucked in, I'll go. But all of the Nerf herders know I'm not a huge horror guy, so kind of a toss up on that one. I'm trying to watch Project Power, and so like maybe the next episode that we do, we can talk about that one.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, how are you feeling about a lightning round now, sir?
Yeah, man. If you've got lightning rounds, let's do it.
No, I don't. Too bad. There wasn't a lot. Like there wasn't a huge amount of things that like, so Tignatar replacing Chris D'Elia was on my list. That was going to be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There was I mean, there was some news about Epic Games and Apple, which is essentially
yes,
some Fortnite issues.
That was so ballsy. Have you
Yeah.
read into that? Because
Yeah.
I don't give two shits about Fortnite, but when I heard what they did, I was like, hoo, they got some balls, man. They have some balls.
So as it turns out, Epic Games said that Apple threatened to revoke access to iOS and development tools amid the ongoing legal battle. They removed Fortnite from the App Store and has informed Epic that on Friday, August 28th, Apple will terminate all our developer accounts and cut Epic off from the iOS and Mac development tools. We are asking the court to stop this retaliation. That was coming directly from Epic Games, and they've actually got a link to the court filing that they did. So I mean, it's gotten pretty big at this point.
Well, here's the thing. This was orchestrated by Epic Games. They had this planned because this wasn't just something like Apple decided to do something and now they're filing a lawsuit in retaliation. Epic Games, they released a patch or whatever to Fortnite, which basically had its own like buy sale, its own currency system, its own sale system.
Which did not go through Apple, and
correct,
kind of cut them out. And Apple doesn't like it when you take their money away.
Exactly. And and their call was that, well, it's a monopoly that Apple's trying to do. So Apple, as soon as they found out about this, immediately kicked them off the App Store. Well, I mean, they were ready. Epic Games released, you know how they've been releasing like movies and shorts and everything on Fortnite. Well, they had another Fortnite cinema event where they did their own version of the famous 1984 Apple commercial in which they were calling out Apple. So they had this ready to go. Like as soon as they were pulled off the store, they said, hey, come back in an hour. We're going to show this short. And then they announced the lawsuit right after the short. So they had this planned and they basically walked Apple into that lawsuit. So I think they've been ready to do this for a while. This wasn't reactionary. They were waiting to do this. And it's interesting because they're huge property and Apple is a force to be reckoned with. So we'll see what happens.
And it was interesting because Google was also affected by this for Android devices because you can bypass them as well. We didn't hear quite as much news about Google doing too terrible much. But they currently, when using Apple and Google payment options, Apple and Google collect a 30% fee, and then up to 20% price drop does not apply. So that it came down to basically a discounted situation. But like in their ad, they also threw Google's "Don't be evil," that old slogan into it. So there was a slight to Google as well. I mean, I don't know. It was just interesting to see because Epic Games right now is kind of a powerhouse in the gaming industry. They've got a huge crowd, huge player base. They've got some really big streaming names that are involved in that stuff. I'm getting into the esports world again. I'm getting into the streaming world again as far as gaming goes. And so like it was I've been reading up on more stuff like that. So that did come. I didn't know that you were as hot about that one, but yeah, it was.
I was just so intrigued by it. I've never played it before, but to see somebody taking on Apple like that with such balls, I was just like, whoa.
I think this one kind of has echoes of what I was talking about with Avatar, is that the fan base will really kind of determine how things go from here. I mean, first of all, I don't see a bunch of people ditching their iOS devices because they can't get Fortnite on it.
No.
But I do see a good chunk of them doing that because
like, hey,
it's like, hey, if Halo isn't available on my PlayStation, I'm gonna buy an Xbox.
Yeah,
it comes down to like a console thing now.
It's two different groups of people. There's Apple lovers and there's Fortnite lovers. The Fortnite lovers, the majority of them are more Fortnite than Apple. So I can see some of these people are diehard Fortnite, and Fortnite, as basic as it is, like it's crazy because it's certainly not that original. It's just the newest version of Unreal Tournament. You know, it's the same thing that's been going on for years, except somehow Fortnite has just made it huge. And now they're releasing movie trailer. Like they released a Christopher Nolan movie trailer on Fortnite first. They've released like behind the scenes or deleted scenes or things that of a movie that just came out on Fortnite. It's so crazy the impact that Fortnite has had. And so Epic Games must be feeling confident to take on the juggernaut that is Apple.
Just off of the money that they've made off of that virtual currency, Fortnite, I mean, Fortnite being a free-to-play game has microtransactions. That's how they make a lot of their money. And and they've done it right, especially with the cosmetics, with the streaming crowd. Like, they did everything right as far as hyping up their game. And so they have made millions upon millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, just working on this game. And it's just one game that they continue adding content to, which in the gaming world, as far as a long-term online game would go, that's pretty good low overhead. In comparison to what it could be developing multiple games, multiple sequel titles. But yeah, that was an interesting piece of news. But it was the only interesting piece of news, especially on Twitter, because in the entertainment section alone, there are 3 separate stories about Chrissy Teigen having a fucking baby, and I just didn't give a shit. Like, it's just like I'm not kidding either. Like, I'm straight up not kidding. I'm gonna scroll through here real quick. And I'm just gonna show you, because there's 3 different fucking ones. Chrissy Teigen says she was terrified after learning she was pregnant during breast surgery. Don't give a fuck. Look at this third baby, quote unquote. Chrissy Teigen debuts pregnancy bump. And then the fucking last one was congrats to John Legend and Chrissy Teigen. It's like, all right, Twitter, I get it.
We get it.
Fuck. It's just like, I don't care. And then there was one, and like, there was one that I thought was kind of funny. And it's an old one too. But I feel like it's been showing up every fucking day. It was Jason Derulo thought Cats would change the world. The live action movie Cats would change the world. It was like, wow, what were you fucking smoking when you were making that movie, dude?
Yeah,
like,
he went at that hard. Yeah,
yeah, that was this was so. Normally I don't go to just Twitter for like lightning round stuff. I'll go to a bunch of different sources. I'll look at a bunch of different pages. But I looked at all those and there wasn't much as far as like anything like super pressing. And then I came to Twitter and they were blowing up about the Fortnite thing, because it's Apple and that's a huge that's a huge part of the Twitter base is iOS devices. And so that I saw that story and it was just like, ugh. 3 separate fucking stories about Chrissy Teigen I had to scroll past before this even fucking showed up. I was just like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. So it was a pretty weak lightning round this week, but yeah. unless you really care about Chrissy Teigen's pregnancy, her third pregnancy.
Man. Yeah. I mean, how is that going to affect her Quibi movies, and
if that's a part of your life that you can't get through without getting updates on, then I guess this was an okay lightning round for you.
Yeah.
I just, but yeah. I don't know. Beyond that, it was a pretty good episode. I mean, we took a week off because things just weren't stacking up too much. But I think that was probably a good break, because we're coming back. We came back now and some things had happened. Thankfully, sadly, none of them were really like good news. I mean, Tig Notaro replacing Christy Elliott is pretty good news, but it's not like it's kind of like, yeah, you should probably do that because he's a creep.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the DC stuff. Hopefully we have some stuff on Monday to talk about. I'm guessing we will. I can't imagine nothing big comes out of this weekend. But especially on that Sputnik thing, man. Sputnik was supposed to come out in April, the Tribeca Film Festival. That didn't happen because of COVID. It came out this weekend just because they had no choice, and I was lucky enough to be able to see it. But you're right, man. I mean, talk about the only films that are coming out right now. Many of them are foreign. The other foreign film I'm really aching to see is Peninsula, which is the sequel to Train to Busan. And that's been raking in the bills over in South Korea. And I want to see that movie. And starting next weekend, I believe, is when Tenet starts releasing in different countries, and we're not going to be able to see it. There's a thing about AMC coming out with 15-cent movies on one day next week in certain cities, and I don't know if we're on that list, but again, it's just like a daily reminder of, come on. Are you pissed off that there's no movies coming in America? Well, it's just another reason to put on your mask. And I just want it to happen. But if that 15-cent thing comes to Omaha, 15 cents, man, you could buy a whole theater for probably what you would spend on one ticket, because it's only like a third of the theater. Yeah. So if you really wanted to go see a movie on that day and you were afraid of being around other people, just buy out the whole theater. It's only 15 cents a seat.
There you go.
You could sit on one side of the theater. I'll sit on the other side. It'll just be us. It'll be fine. You can watch a movie.
I mean, I'm game. Yeah. We'll we'll come up with something as soon as movie season starts back up, for sure.
Right.
But yeah, until then, I'll start. I don't know, Nerf Herders. I mean, if we open up a GoFundMe, you can help us rent out theater, so that'd be great.
Yeah, $15 GoFundMe to rent out an entire theater. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap up this episode, Nerf Herders. Thanks for tuning in. We missed you. Can't wait to see you again. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, excuse me. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't have to worry about missing out on future content. Hit us up on social media. Be a part of the conversation. Leave your comments down below on what you are most excited about from DC Fandome. And
I know Brent's excited about Superman, so we'll see.
I'm excited. I want to see a Snyder Cut trailer, big time. I want to see the Warner Brothers Batman game. I want more. So
yeah, we'll see. Until
then, we will catch you next time, Nerf Herders. Have a good one.